Today, everybody in the world is aware of the Russia-Ukraine war. This is for the first time after the Second World War, a country has openly invaded another nation for the purpose of annexation, while the world watched the game by sitting at the fence. Every global peace treaty and the UN Charter was disregarded with brazen impunity. You must have also watched movies in which there is a war or hostility between human beings and aliens. But do you know that there was a war that was fought between the army of a sovereign nation and birds? And surprisingly, the birds prevailed in that conflict. Sounds unbelievable and ridiculous, right? But that's true. The army had lost the war against flightless birds. This happened in 1932, and the incident is referred as the Great Emu War. It was fought between the Australian Army and emus, the birds that are the unofficial national bird of Australia, who are flightless and are the second heaviest birds on this planet. This conflict was an attempt to curb the number of emus that were running amok and ravaging crops in the Campion district of Western Australia. The war was unsuccessful in bringing down the emu population, and the army had to be recalled, which is why it's considered a rare war where humans were defeated. The story starts immediately after the World War I, when the Australian soldiers returned from the battle and the government was looking for things the soldiers could have done in order to sustain themselves. Under the circumstances, the Australian government rolled out a soldier settlement scheme where they were provided parcels of land to cultivate crops and do farming. Several soldiers were allotted land near Perth in West Australia. Those patches of land were completely devoid of fertility due to the desert-like conditions. In 1929, the Great Depression hit the world and the prices of wheat and other crops fell like a deck of cards. The Australian government promised subsidies to help them tide over, but those assurances turned out to be empty and they never came into effect. Meanwhile, the emus were not happy with their habitat being acquired by the human beings, and they began annihilating crops which the ex-soldiers had grown. This became routine, and the soldiers, who had now gone back to their earlier occupation of farming, were fed up by the continuous devastation of crops. So at first, they tried to take care of this themselves. But when it went out of control, they requested help from the Australian government. The army was sent in, and then they tried using machine guns against the emus. But surprisingly, the birds had their own strategy and they kept on foiling attacks, one after the other. Whenever troops moved behind the birds in combat formation, the birds would scatter themselves in all directions to minimize their casualties. The birds used guerrilla tactics, better than the Australian army. It was reported back then that on an average 10 to 12 bullets were wasted to down just one emu. This was a logistical nightmare for the forces, and it prompted a lot of negative media coverage. Finally, the government decided that the operation against emus was not cost-effective, and they decided to pull the troops out from this conflict. Thus, for the first time in the history, an army equipped with sophisticated weapons such as machine guns had lost a war against birds who couldn't even fly. That was it about the Great Emu War. We hope you liked this new video. If you want more such in-depth content, then do subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon.